Kill your excuses. Good morning, afternoon. Today, I want to talk about something that holds many of us back from achieving our true potential. Excuses. We all have dreams, goals, and ambitions, but often we find ourselves trapped in a cycle of excuses. We say, I don't have enough time, or I'm not ready, or it's too hard. But the truth is, excuses are nothing but obstacles we create ourselves. Excuses kill our progress and stop us from becoming who we really want to be. Every great achievement in history was made by people who refused to make excuses. They faced challenges head-on and pushed forward despite difficulties. If you want to succeed, you must learn to kill your excuses. Replace them with action, commitment, and persistence. Remember, your dreams are worth the effort. The only thing standing between you and your success is the decision to stop making excuses and start making progress. So, today, I challenge you. Whatever your goal is, whatever your dream, kill your excuses and take control of your future. Thank you. Excuses are often seen as simple reasons or justifications we give for not doing something, but in reality, excuses are much more than that. They are self-imposed obstacles, barriers we create in our own minds and lives that stop us from moving forward and reaching our potential. When we make excuses, we are choosing comfort over challenge, fear over courage, and stagnation over growth. Think about it. Every time you say, I don't have enough time, I'm too tired, or I'm not good enough, you are creating a mental wall that stops you from trying. You're trying. These excuses protect us from the discomfort of failure, rejection, or hard work, but they also trap us in the same place. It's like locking yourself in a cage and then blaming the outside world for your situation. The harsh truth is, these excuses are made by us, for us, and only we have the power to remove them. Excuses serve as a kind of safety net. They provide a reason why we don't have to take risks or face difficulties. When you say, I can't do this because I lack experience, you avoid the challenge of learning and growing. When you say, I'm not ready yet, you delay progress and keep yourself stuck in a state of waiting. But waiting doesn't guarantee success. It only wastes precious time. The moment we start to rely on excuses, we give away our power to change our circumstances. What makes excuses so dangerous is that they often appear logical and reasonable at first. For example, saying, I don't have time seems like a valid reason, but if you look closer, it usually means that you are not prioritizing your goal. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Successful people are not the ones with more time, but the ones who manage their time better and focus on what truly matters. So when you say, I don't have time, it's often an excuse to avoid uncomfortable effort. Excuses also affect your mindset deeply. When you make excuses repeatedly, your mind starts believing them. This creates a negative cycle where you begin to think you are incapable or unlucky, and you stop trying altogether. This is what psychologists call a self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can't do something, you won't try hard enough, and your failure will confirm your belief. On the other hand, if you stop making excuses and believe in your ability to improve, you open the door to growth and success. Another reason excuses are such strong obstacles is that they often hide underlying fears. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort, or even fear of success can all make us create excuses. For example, when someone says, I'm not ready to start my own business, it might really mean they fear the responsibility or risk involved. By hiding these fears behind excuses, we avoid confronting them directly. But as long as we don't face these fears, we cannot overcome them or move forward. Excuses are also contagious. If you are surrounded by people who frequently make excuses, you are more likely to adopt the same habit. This creates a toxic environment where nobody pushes themselves or each other to improve. On the other hand, being around motivated and responsible people helps reduce excuses because their attitude influences you positively. This shows how powerful excuses can be, not just in limiting individuals, but also groups or teams. Importantly, excuses take away accountability. When you make excuses, you avoid responsibility for your actions or results. Instead of asking, what can I do better? Or how can I improve? You say, it's not my fault. This mindset stops personal growth because accountability is the foundation of learning and success. When you accept full responsibility, you empower yourself to take control and make changes, but excuses keep you stuck in blame and helplessness. One way to understand excuses better is to compare them to obstacles you encounter outside of yourself. For example, a roadblock or a difficult situation may slow you down, but it does not stop you unless you decide to stop. You can find a way around, climb over, or break through external obstacles. But excuses are internal. They are inside your mind, and they have no real power unless you give it to them. The moment you refuse to accept excuses, they lose their strength and you gain freedom. Excuses also limit your creativity and problem-solving skills. When you believe excuses, you don't look for solutions, you just accept defeat. But when you remove excuses, you start thinking about ways to overcome challenges. For example, instead of saying, I don't have money to start, you might think about how to save, find support, or start small. Removing excuses forces you to think differently and act differently, which leads to new opportunities and growth. In the journey towards success, killing excuses means being honest with yourself. It means looking deeply at your reasons for hesitation and asking whether they are real problems or just convenient excuses. This honesty is often uncomfortable because it reveals your fears, weaknesses, or laziness. But it is also liberating because it puts the power back in your hands. When you stop blaming external factors and excuses, you start focusing on what you can control: your effort, your attitude, your persistence. The power to kill excuses and break free from self-imposed obstacles is inside everyone. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to face discomfort, but the rewards are great. When you kill excuses, you open the door to endless possibilities and success that was waiting on the other side all along. Life is full of challenges. No one's path to success or happiness is free of obstacles, difficulties, or setbacks. Every person you admire, every successful individual you look up to, has faced their own share of problems. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is not the absence of challenges. It's how they respond to them. Challenges are a natural and necessary part of growth. They test your strength, your creativity, and your determination. But what really stops people from moving forward is not the challenges themselves. It's the excuses they make because of those challenges. When you encounter a challenge, your first instinct might be to avoid it, or to find a reason why it is too hard for you to overcome. You might say, this is impossible, or I don't have the resources, or it's just not meant for me. These thoughts are excuses in disguise. They sound like reasons, but really they are mental barriers that stop you from trying or from pushing harder. Challenges can be uncomfortable and frustrating, but they are also opportunities in disguise. They force you to learn new skills, adapt, and become stronger. The truth is, challenges are the test that separates the winners from the quitters. If you look closely, you will find that almost all success stories involve people who faced huge obstacles but refused to give up. For example, Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors, failed thousands of times before creating the electric light bulb. Instead of making excuses like it's too hard or I'll never succeed, he treated every failure as a lesson and kept going. The challenge was there, but he chose not to let excuses stop him. Excuses make challenges seem bigger and more intimidating than they really are. When you make excuses, you focus on what you don't have instead of what you can do. This shift in focus keeps you stuck. For instance, if your goal is to start a new career, but you say, I don't have enough experience, you are making an excuse to avoid the risk and effort involved. But many people have started from zero experience and learned along the way. The real challenge is not the lack of experience, but the fear of starting. Excuses make the fear grow larger than the challenge itself. Another important aspect is that challenges are universal. No one, is exempt. Even the most privileged or talented individuals face hard moments. What makes the difference is their mindset. People who succeed see challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. They ask themselves, how can I overcome this? Rather than, why can't I do this? When you change your perspective about challenges, you reduce the power of excuses. It is also important to understand that making excuses is often a way to protect your ego or self-esteem. When something is difficult, admitting that you can't do it feels like failure or weakness. So instead of facing the truth, your mind creates excuses to soften the blow. But this protection is temporary and harmful. In the long run, excuses weaken your confidence and stop you from growing. Facing challenges directly, even if it means failing sometimes, builds real strength and self-respect. Excuses not only hold you back individually, but also affect your relationships and opportunities. When others see you making excuses regularly, they may lose trust in your commitment and reliability. Opportunities require action and responsibility. If you let challenges scare you away, you might miss out on chances that could change your life. Being known as someone who finds solutions, not excuses, opens doors. Sometimes the fear of discomfort makes challenges seem unbearable. We live in a world that often rewards comfort and quick results. But real growth happens outside the comfort zone. Challenges push you out of that zone and force you to stretch. If you allow excuses to keep you in your comfort zone, you deny yourself the chance to discover your true potential. A practical way to handle challenges without falling into excuses is to break down the problem into smaller, manageable parts. When a challenge seems huge, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and make excuses to avoid it. But if you take one small step at a time, the challenge becomes less scary and more achievable. This method helps reduce excuses because you see progress and build momentum. Finally, remember that challenges teach valuable lessons. Each obstacle carries wisdom that can prepare you for bigger successes. When you avoid challenges through excuses, you miss out on these lessons. Over time, those missed lessons become regrets. Great achievers stand out because of their mindset and attitude toward obstacles and setbacks. One of the most important qualities that separates successful people from the rest is their refusal to make excuses. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't complain about difficulties, and they don't blame external circumstances for their failures or delays. Instead, they push forward no matter what happens around them. When you study the lives of famous achievers, whether in sports, business, science, or arts, you find a common pattern. These people faced numerous challenges and failures, yet they never let excuses stop them. For example, Michael Jordan, widely considered the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. Many would see this as a reason to quit or feel discouraged, but Jordan didn't allow this setback to become an excuse. Instead, he used it as motivation to work harder and improve his skills. His determination to push forward despite rejection became one of the key reasons for his later success. Similarly, Oprah Winfrey faced poverty, abuse, and discrimination early in life. Yet she refused to let her difficult past define her future. Instead of making excuses about her circumstances, she focused on what she could control: her education, her work ethic, and her attitude. Today, she is one of the most influential media personalities in the world. Her story teaches us that great achievers find a way forward regardless of their situation. What makes great achievers different is their mindset about control and responsibility. They understand that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can control how they respond. When challenges arise, they accept responsibility for their actions and choices instead of blaming others or external conditions. This acceptance of responsibility empowers them to act rather than stay stuck in excuses. Excuses are often a form of procrastination disguised as justification. Instead of taking immediate action, excuses provide a reason to delay. Great achievers recognize this trap and avoid it. They know that waiting for perfect conditions, more time, more resources, or more experience is often just an illusion that leads to wasted time. They start where they are with what they have and improve along the way. This proactive attitude is essential for turning dreams into reality. Another important characteristic of great achievers is their ability to stay focused on their goals. Excuses tend to divert attention and energy away from what matters. When you focus on excuses, you spend time thinking about why something can't be done instead of how it can be done. Great achievers keep their eyes on the prize and use challenges as stepping stones rather than obstacles. They continuously remind themselves of their purpose and vision, which fuels their motivation and persistence. Moreover, great achievers embrace failure as part of the process. Excuses often stem from the fear of failure, a fear that if things don't go well, it reflects poorly on them. But achievers know that failure is not the end, it's feedback, a way to learn and grow. Instead of making excuses to avoid failure, they analyze what went wrong, adjust their approach, and try again. This resilience is what builds success over time. The environment and habits of great achievers also support their excuse-free mindset. They surround themselves with like-minded individuals who encourage accountability and positive action. They develop routines and disciplines that reduce the chances of giving in to excuses. For example, many successful people set clear goals, break tasks into small steps, and track their progress regularly. These habits create momentum and make it harder to justify excuses. Furthermore, great achievers are self-aware. They recognize their own weaknesses and limitations, but don't use them as excuses. Instead, they find ways to work around them, seek help, or develop new skills. This self-awareness helps them face reality honestly and stay grounded while still aiming high. They don't pretend to be perfect. They simply refuse to be stopped by imperfections. Another powerful reason why great achievers avoid excuses is that they understand the value of time. Time is the most limited resource everyone has, and wasting it with excuses is like throwing away a precious asset. Successful people treat time as something to be respected and used wisely. They make decisions quickly, act decisively, and keep moving forward. This urgency contrasts sharply with the slow, hesitant mindset of excuse makers. Finally, great achievers inspire others by their example. When you see someone pushing forward, regardless of the difficulties, it motivates those around them to do the same. Excuses are contagious, but so is determination. By refusing to make excuses, achievers create a culture of action, accountability, and success not only for themselves, but also for their teams, communities, and followers. Taking responsibility is one of the most powerful steps you can take to kill excuses and transform your life. When you take full responsibility for your decisions, actions, and their outcomes, you stop blaming others or external circumstances for your problems. Owning your choices means you accept that you have control over your life, even when things don't go as planned. This mindset is the foundation of personal growth and success. Excuses often arise because people want to avoid feeling accountable. It is easier to say, "It's not my fault," or "the situation was unfair," than to admit that you could have done something differently. However, this avoidance comes at a high cost. It keeps you powerless and stuck. When you take responsibility, you reclaim your power because you no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances. Instead, you become the leader of your own life. Taking responsibility requires honesty and courage. It means looking honestly at your mistakes and weaknesses without making excuses or shifting blame. This can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront your imperfections and failures. But this honesty is necessary for improvement. Only when you accept where you went wrong can you learn from your experiences and avoid repeating the same mistakes. For example, if you failed to complete a project on time and your first reaction is to blame your team or lack of resources, you are making an excuse. But if you take responsibility, you ask yourself what you could have done differently to manage the situation better. Maybe you could have planned better, communicated more clearly, or prioritized tasks more effectively. This shift in thinking moves you from being stuck to finding solutions. Owning your actions also means accepting the consequences, whether good or bad. It is easy to celebrate success, but harder to admit when things don't go well. Many people avoid responsibility because they fear punishment, criticism, or embarrassment. But avoiding responsibility damages your integrity and reputation. When you own both your successes and failures, people respect you more because you show strength, maturity, and reliability. Taking responsibility is closely linked to accountability. Accountability means holding yourself answerable for your commitments and promises. When you are accountable, you follow through on what you say you will do, even when it's difficult. It builds trust with others and increases your self-confidence. Excuses break accountability because they provide a way out when things get tough. Another important aspect of responsibility is decision-making. Every day you make dozens of choices, some big and some small. When you kill excuses, you accept that you are responsible for those choices and their results. This means you stop blaming others for your current situation. If you want to improve your career, health, or relationships, it starts with your decisions. With your decisions. Taking responsibility means actively choosing to do what's necessary instead of waiting for others to fix things for you. Many successful people emphasize the power of responsibility. They understand that blaming excuses only delays progress. For example, consider someone who wants to get fit but keeps saying, "I don't have time to exercise." Taking responsibility means recognizing that you do have time. Maybe you need to wake up earlier or cut down on distractions. Once you accept responsibility, you look for ways to make exercise happen instead of making excuses. Taking responsibility also improves your problem-solving skills. When you stop making excuses, you face problems head-on. You look for practical solutions instead of avoiding the issue. This proactive mindset helps you overcome obstacles more quickly and effectively. Over time, taking responsibility becomes a habit that leads to greater resilience and success. An important part of responsibility is also about mindset. When you believe you are responsible for your life, you feel empowered and motivated to take action. Excuses, on the other hand, create a victim mentality, where you feel helpless and dependent on external factors. Victims wait for things to happen to them. Responsible people make things happen. This mindset difference is what separates those who achieve their dreams from those who remain stuck. It is important to realize that taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything or feeling guilty unnecessarily. It means understanding your role in each situation and how your choices affect outcomes. Sometimes, circumstances outside your control will affect your life, but even then, you can control how you respond. Taking responsibility is about focusing on what you can control, not what you can't. Finally, when you kill excuses by taking responsibility, you become a role model for others. People admire those who stand up and own their actions, especially when facing challenges. This attitude inspires trust, respect, and cooperation from family, friends, and colleagues. It creates a positive environment where everyone feels encouraged to do their best and stop making excuses. Excuses are often the easy way out when faced with difficulties, but true success requires a different approach, replacing those excuses with commitment and persistence. Commitment means making a firm decision to pursue your goals no matter what challenges arise, while persistence is the continuous effort to keep going even when progress seems slow or obstacles appear. Together, they become powerful forces that help you focus on solutions instead of getting stuck in excuses. When you rely on excuses, you are essentially avoiding responsibility and making reasons why something cannot be done. This mindset traps you in a cycle of inaction and disappointment. But when you replace excuses with commitment, you shift your mindset toward action and determination. It means deciding that your goal is important enough that you will not quit, no matter how difficult the journey becomes. Persistence is the practice of showing up every day, putting in the effort, and not giving up even when the results are not immediately visible. Success rarely happens overnight. Most achievements are the result of consistent, persistent work over time. When you combine commitment with persistence, you develop resilience, the ability to bounce back from failures and keep moving forward. This resilience is essential because challenges and setbacks are inevitable in any worthwhile pursuit. Focusing on solutions rather than excuses changes how you approach problems. Instead of asking, why can't I do this? Or what is stopping me? You begin to ask, how can I make this work? Or what are the steps I can take to overcome this obstacle? This solution-oriented mindset opens your mind to creativity and new possibilities. When you commit to finding answers, you stop wasting energy on reasons not to try and start investing energy in progress. For example, imagine you want to start a business, but feel overwhelmed by lack of funds or experience. An excuse would be to say, I don't have enough money, or I don't know how to do this. But a committed and persistent person would look for solutions. Maybe start small with limited resources. Learn through free online courses or seek mentorship. This approach is focused on what can be done instead of what cannot. Commitment also helps you maintain focus. Distractions and temptations are everywhere, and it's easy to lose motivation or switch to easier tasks. But when you are truly committed, your goal becomes a priority, and you allocate your time and energy accordingly. Commitment is like a compass that keeps you on the right path, preventing excuses from pulling you off track. Persistence builds habits. Once you start, even with small steps, it becomes easier to continue and build confidence. Many successful people credit their achievements not just to their skills or talents, but to their ability to start early and take consistent action. For example, JK. By choosing to start now, you make the most of the time you have and set yourself on a path toward your goals. So remember this. Excuses are nothing but barriers we build ourselves. If you want to succeed, if you want to live the life you dream of, the only way is to kill those excuses.